Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Friday. Hope everybody's doing well. It's absolutely gorgeous. I was afraid that we're gonna skip the spring, but spring is still here, holding on before it gets really hot. So if you're in this DMV area, enjoy this beautiful weather. So quick COVID updates. Well, I think the big thing is that as predicted, the new variant numbers are growing. They're growing more on West Coast than on East Coast. So will we see the same trend here? I have no doubt we will. So I think the idea is that we should really continue keeping a track of this and basic precautions as before. There is a new data that came out a couple of days ago consistently saying that the long COVID continues to be at about 5% rate, which is kind of consistent with how I felt and how I think what we've been seeing. It's down about double-fold from what it used to be, which was about 10% like maybe a year and a half ago. So 5% is better, but it's still 5%. So think of it this way: if we all going to get COVID over next ongoing years, and at 5% rate, 1 out of 20 of us will continue to have long COVID for years to come. It's pretty scary statistics. Comes, funnily enough, with a major complaint about NIH. You have seen that this $1.6 billion that were set aside for long COVID have been basically used completely wrong. There's a lot of critique. Grants that were administered are really not studying clinical aspect of long COVID. Most of that is either looking at some tests or some other ways of assessing it, or for single interventions, which all have failed so far, and we would expect that to fail, right? And then the only trial that actually was looking at the physical activity for long COVID is failing dramatically due to completely wrong design. So in essence, the government is kind of saying to NIH, wait a second, we gave you all this money, what's going on? And the critique, I think, falls, it's pretty obvious why this is happening, right? So they gave the money to the wrong agency. Instead of establishing brand new agency, they gave the money to the standard of scientific inquiry that does, and this is not a standard situation, right? So we have a kind of an emergency where the money should have been given to clinicians in front lines, not to senior researchers who are completely detached most of the time from clinical settings in acute scenarios like this, and really don't have a good way of changing what they do very quickly. So NIH is in business of supporting existing strong infrastructurally existing research centers, not innovative programs. And that's kind of the biggest dilemma for NIH. What are they going to do now? So we yet to see what will continue to fall out of this, but unfortunately, I think that was money bad spent, and there are going to be some benefit out of it. Of course, there's some research in the basics of how long COVID appears and all that, but nonetheless, I think it's a little upsetting that this was not thought through carefully ahead of time, right? And then they just channeled the process through a standard schematics, which were not fitting the pandemic at all. So thanks, Janet. So just as usual, drop the questions in the chat. You know the process. If you really have to unmute or say something, go for it too. I'm going to take 5 minutes now before I hand it over to Patrick to talk a little bit about cancer. So I'm going to put a link here. So I have recently recorded a podcast on our YouTube channel with Wayne Jonas about his new book and also his work that he's been doing in the cancer arena, and how the care of the cancer has been slowly shifting in the country. So this book that he just published is called, if you actually click on this link, what will end up happening, you're going to go to the YouTube channel and you will be able to see the descriptions and everything. And so the book called Healing in Cancer, it's a practical guide for caregivers, for teams that take care of patients, but also for patients themselves. It's less centered around giving specific methods of care, like particular supplements or dietary recommendation. It covers some of it, but mostly it's really spent about how do you create the process of best care, and what systematic changes should occur in our healthcare system in order for us to really take care of cancer patients a lot better, because current situation is better than it used to be 10 years ago, but it's desired to be a whole lot better than that. So it's a very interesting conversation. Do check it out. I do want to add that what I think I see changing in a very positive way, all in all, is kind of a general recognition of oncology field, not just that integrative medicine has a pretty important role to play, but the fact that the really patients should be treated as a whole person and not as, a subject that needs to get chemotherapy. I think that is shifting. Those of you who didn't know this, so about close to a year now, I was asked to join National Cancer Institute on they have a CAM board called PDQ CAM board, advisory board. So I was asked to join, and I see how that work, and I can actually put the website link in a second there, how that work really influences gradually the overall perception of cancer care. And the reason I decided to kind of interview the Wayne in addition to the book is that Wayne is also on this board. And so he and I have had some conversations over the years. And so my hope is that if you have anybody who is close to you, your friends, your relatives, who going through the cancer treatment, look into creating this whole health pathway for that person, or helping them to understand that it's not about just to pick a right diet or get a right supplement. It's really all about creating the whole pathway of your care to be around that whole health idea or holistic idea. I mean, the whole health wording is the modern wording, like the word holistic, because it always had a little bit of a baggage attached. I think there's the idea that we're going to move to this terminology called whole health. So that's all I have, and I will put PDQ link at some point. Actually, let me just do it now so I don't forget. There's a lot of good resources there, so feel free to check it out.
Hey, Misha, I have a question.
Yep.
After just hearing the news report on WAMU, this is from the person who's asking the question. What are antibiotics? Please name some antibiotics. Why should they not have been used for COVID patients? This person is lucky enough to have not had COVID. And what do I need to know about treatment if I have symptoms and 2 positive tests? So why don't you handle the first part? Should antibiotics be used for COVID?
No, right? Because antibiotics do not treat viral infections. So antibiotics are particularly, the term antibiotic means you have to treat bacterial infection. They have zero role to play with any viral infection, be it a cold, herpes infections, shingles, whatever. The antibiotics have no role. Sometimes I think what Cecile is trying to ask here, often viral infection sort of linger and then they turn into a bacterial infection later. So it's very commonly happens in what's called bronchitis. So when you have initially a viral infection of the lungs, but then if it lingers or simply your immune system for some reason is a little weaker, you can have a secondary bacterial infection. And at that point, of course, you'll need antibiotics. So that is yes, in that case, yes. Why should they not have been? Okay. Well, why should you not give antibiotics for COVID patients that don't have the bacterial component? Antibiotics actually have a lot of side effects. In fact, any antibiotic will have serious side effects. The big one is that your microbiome will change. Most antibiotics we have to take orally, unless you go to the hospital and you get IV antibiotics, then your gut microbiome is less affected just by the route of administration. But if you get an oral antibiotic, majority of them are going to cause the shifted microbiome. And we know how dangerous that is, right? We know that one course of antibiotics permanently changes microbiome forever in significant proportion of patients. There's been some data that up to 30% of patients with one course of antibiotics will never live the life the same the way they were living before. That's why this whole massive undertaking is happening in some parts of the world to save the original stool from Aboriginal cultures, because none of us in this culture has a fully healthy microbiome because of that, right? So you don't want to do that. You don't want to take random antibiotics here and there. That's basically the point. And I'm not sure about the last point. What do I need to know about treatment if I have a symptom antibiotic? So we talked a lot about COVID, right? So treatments. I don't think it's the right timing for us to cover it again. There hasn't been any major changes. Of course, Paxlovid has been not as effective of lately. We'll talk about it. But since, Cecil, you brought this up, let's talk about this in an upcoming week or two, where I'll give a little update on the sort of current standard of treatment. And then maybe at that point, I will sort of come up with telling you about most up-to-date evidence about Paxlovid. We still prescribe it quite often, maybe not as often as we used to be, but it's still pretty much the mainstream treatment outside of just the supportive supplements and dietary changes that we've talked. So again, I don't think we have enough time today since we're just doing Q&A before I hand it over to Patrick. But that's a good reminder that we should kind of revisit this regularly. So I'll do that next week. Good. Anybody else have anything? Anybody seen anybody getting COVID in the last week since yesterday? Okay, so one hand up. Anybody else? Can see all the hands with this layout.
Actually, on the West Coast, I heard about it. I mean, friends of mine on the West Coast who got it, but they got it from travel.
West Coast is having, that's what I mentioned. So West Coast has a major flare, particularly California, to be specific, or thanks.
But I had it the week before that in DC, so.
Right. Well, it's everywhere, right? But I mean, I think the numbers are growing the fastest. Cecile, thanks for the thumbs up. I'm glad that you're okay with covering this a bit more next week. And by the way, I just suggest you guys don't hesitate. Cecile is very vocal. It doesn't mean that everybody should be this way. So if you have a question ahead of time that you really want me to pay attention to, send it to Janet and myself, and I'll prepare for it, because sometimes during the meeting I have a hard time catching up on questions if the questions require more than a minute or two. All right, so looks like that's a Janet's signal to give time to Patrick. So let me just finish with these questions. So okay, so Randall's asking a good question about RSV rates. So there is no RSV now. There's no point getting a vaccine now. But those of you who are following the news know that yesterday when Feds approved another RSV vaccine with Moderna, I think it's expected that it will be very similar to the first one. I don't know which one's going to be better. I'll keep a careful look at the data. I have not compared the Moderna and the older one studies side by side, but what I see from the news, they're saying that the vaccines are equivocal, that they're about the same efficacy. Are they having same side effects? I presume so. It's a great question. So, all right. Okay. Well, I don't see any other questions. If there's something burning that shows up while Patrick is giving his little talk, don't hesitate to put questions in the chat, and then we may have another minute or two after Patrick. Good.
Great. Thanks, Misha. And hey, folks. So by way of introduction, because I don't recognize many of your names and faces, my name is Patrick Kaur.
I didn't introduce you. I feel horrible. All right, so let me introduce you real quick first.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
So everybody, so Patrick is a kind of a Patrick and Dr. Lee are basically partners. They co-run the lab, and Patrick is also one of the leaders now in the Office of Integrative Medicine. And basically think of Patrick as a Lee's other half in there in the lots of activities, and he's also heavily involved in research, and that's what he's here to talk to us today about. And Patrick, feel free to add whatever you want.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, that covers it pretty nicely. And so the hat that I'm wearing here kind of today to chat with you all is my hat with the Resiliency and Well-being Center, which is work that I get to do with Janet and Lee as well. So my background, what I'm really interested in, I'm keenly interested in nutrition. I do kind of a bit of research in nutrition and cancer care as well. But today I'm coming to ask you all for some help. I'm working with two students who are preparing for medical school on a kind of community-informed research project where they are working with the Resiliency and Well-being Center to design a comprehensive nutrition guide and website. And so the intent here is that we're putting together kind of free resources for anyone, right? It'll be situated on the Resiliency and Well-being Center website, all around, healthful dieting and nutrition, how you can incorporate different foods into your life to make sure that you're eating for health in a number of different ways. So what we're doing is looking to talk to people, just a whole smattering of folks, about nutrition, what that means for them, and then to sit down with them in a kind of a Zoom call environment like this and look at the drafted nutrition guide and get some feedback and say, do you like this? Is this user friendly? Is it providing the information that you actually care to know? Is it answering questions that you've got? And the intent with these conversations that the students are running is just to refine and adjust this existing kind of PDF document that we've got, make it a little more robust, user-friendly, and interactive for folks. So my ask today is, if that's something you're kind of interested in helping us do, having a conversation with one of these two students, looking at the guide with them, and providing some feedback, I'll put in the chat a little bit of language about the thing, and then a link to, we have got like a survey. We're saying, complete this if you want to chat with us. We can use that. The students will reach out to you and schedule a time to talk. Pretty informal conversations, half an hour to 45 minutes is typically how they go. And Robbie or Alejandra, those are the two students, sit down with you, chat with you a little bit about kind of your existing nutrition knowledge, and then they screen share the guide, and you just kind of talk through it, bounce ideas off one another, and give some feedback. So it's a nice conversation. It's particularly helpful, and I'll tell you too, candidly, part of the reason I involve these two students is that they have an interest in integrative medicine, and I'm trying to expose them to this kind of work, early as they're moving into medical school, and hopefully keep them kind of on our team as they move through the pipeline. Yeah. So that's what I got, but I'm happy to answer questions if you folks have questions about anything that we're doing. I also linked the existing guide for you to take a look at if you're curious what that looks like.
Yeah, I think anybody, if you feel that this is something you want to contribute, by all means, you can contact us. If you prefer not to sort of think, you want to think a little bit, you can message Janet and I, and we'll make sure we'll connect you to Patrick.
Yeah, and I put my email in the chat too, but Jennifer, yeah.
Great.
I had a question. My daughter probably isn't the person you want to talk to, but runs a food pantry in the Hudson Valley, and is the director of food programs for a small community center there. Her background is in nutrition. She's getting her master's in public health with a nutrition focus now.
Oh, wonderful.
And she would love to get both, to give input and get output from what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So if you can send a link, I'll send it to that email address, an introduction. But
yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to. And so so other hat, my public health degree was in nutrition too. So I would love to chat with her about that as well. And it's not, so that's a good question. Is this only for residents living in the DMV? No, initially we were looking small, but now so we have this kind of initial draft document. Now we're looking for a larger group of
and
folks.
the population she works with is a significantly, it's like lots of other rural agricultural populations.
That's great. Yeah, that'd be very helpful. And in terms of specific demographics, we are looking for just a group like older than 18, right? So we're looking for kind of adults, because the audience here is older folks who are making decisions related to kind of their nutritional choices, and the language is presented for adults. So it's a little more scientific in nature. But beyond that, we are open to talking to folks. Our goal is to get a reasonably diverse representation to make sure that it's accessible to all different manner of folks. And thank you, Alyssa. That's wonderful. I will follow up with you soon then. Okay. And that's all I've got. But again, I'll put my email in the chat. If you've got any questions or want to just reach out to me to talk about a time that works for you, do that as well. That scheduling survey, if you haven't looked at it yet, there's different time slots for like every day of the week, including weekends, because our students are on summer break and they're quite eager to chat with folks and keep this moving so that they've got this on their CVs for their medical school applications. They want to say like, hey, look at this fancy shiny website that we designed with with community members. So that's wonderful. And thank you again, everyone, for your time.
Thank you, Patrick, so much. And by the way, I hope that Patrick will come back and share some of his wisdom with us periodically.
Absolutely. I
Very
do love
good.
these events.
But you have a lot of real wisdom that we can learn from you. So it's wonderful to have Catherine with us as usual. You all know her. So Catherine, looks like we're pretty much ready to give you the floor. I don't see any other questions. And, you know, if we finish a little bit earlier, by all means, I think that'll be fine too. But whatever you need to have 35 minutes or so and being back.
I don't want to put everyone to sleep, but
Oh, I would
thank you.
I would not oppose that.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday. Happy sunny Friday. Thank you all for being here. So for those of you who've been with me before, you kind of know the drill, but I'm going to invite you to come into a comfortable position, a comfortable seated position, or perhaps reclined position if you need to get any supports, whether that be pillows, blankets, your favorite cozy sweater. Feel free to grab that now. I'll just give you all a minute to get ready. Okay. So wherever you are, let's actually first start by just taking some gentle stretches and movements. You know, we've been sitting for about 30 minutes. So sometimes, you know, maybe we need to stretch out our back, maybe draw our arms up overhead, maybe some gentle physical movement. Maybe it's in our neck, rolling our shoulders, stretching out our hands. If you want to stand up, you can do that too. Just taking some gentle movements to help you settle into your comfortable place a little more. And whenever you are settled, I invite you to close your eyes, hold a soft gaze forward, or you can leave your eyes open, whatever helps you feel safest, whatever helps you feel most relaxed. Taking a deep breath in through your nose. Exhale, sigh it out through your mouth. And again, a deep breath in through the nose. Exhale, sigh it out, release. And again, a deep inhalation. Let's see if we can lengthen the inhalation just even by one count. And lengthen our exhale by one count. Feeling a full, deep release of the breath. We'll do this 2 more times together. Deep breath in through the nose. Exhale, slowly breathing it out. Maybe feel the shoulders fall down away from the ears. Feeling a little more space and length in the neck. And one more collective breath together in. And exhale, sigh it out. Soften into the surface beneath you, into any supports beneath you, and allow your breath to begin to flow in an unforced way. After those deep breaths, perhaps your breath is flowing a little bit deeper now on its own. Just allowing yourself to breathe, focusing on your breath here, your inhalation and your exhalation. Noticing without judgment what it feels like to breathe and how your breath feels as you breathe. We'll breathe like this for about 2 minutes, really giving us time to get comfortable with our breath, noticing our breath. Letting that be our focus and point of awareness. If any thoughts come to mind, just gently guide them back to your breath. And allowing yourself to still breathe gently in and out. We'll now move into a guided body scan to build a little more awareness and connection with our bodies. If at any point it doesn't feel comfortable for you, you can feel free to tune me out and just go back to focusing on your breathing. But as I mentioned, these positions, these areas of the body, all you need to do is draw attention and awareness to them. No need to do anything else, to move anything. Just bringing your focus to each area of the body. Begin by drawing attention and awareness to our right hand thumb, right index finger, middle finger, ring finger, pinky finger, right wrist, elbow, shoulder, entire right hand, arm, and shoulder, entire right hand, arm, shoulder, left hand thumb, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, pinky, left wrist, left elbow, left shoulder, entire left hand, arm, shoulder, entire left hand, arm, shoulder, back of the neck, back of the head, crown of the head, forehead, right eyebrow, left eyebrow, right eye, left eye, nose, interior of nose, right cheek, left cheek, right ear, left ear, lips, inside of mouth, jaw, entire head and face, entire head and face, throat center, front and back of neck at same time, upper chest, heart center, back of the heart, right lung, left lung, belly, navel center, right hip, right thigh, knee, shin, calf, right ankle, sole of the right foot, right toes. Notice entire right hip, leg, and foot. Entire right hip, leg, foot. Left hip, thigh, left knee, shin, calf, ankle, sole of the left foot, left toes, entire left hip, leg, foot, entire left hip, leg, foot. Notice upper half of the body. Notice lower half of the body. Right half of the body. Left half of the body. Entire front side of the body. Entire back side of the body. Notice whole body. Whole body. Whole body. Allow yourself to continue to breathe as you rest in this state of awareness of your whole self, your whole body. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Continuing to breathe. We'll now use our imagination and visualization, calling to mind a place that feels restful, safe, and comforting, bringing the image of that place to our mind's eye. This can be a place that you're very familiar with, that you've been to before from your past or present, or perhaps a place that you've always wanted to go or have just imagined in your mind. I invite you to imagine yourself there right now. Take a moment of pause and just take in the whole scene and space of where you are. Is it inside or out in nature? Is it colorful? What colors are most prominent? Are there sounds surrounding you? What does it feel like to hear those sounds? Noticing, are you standing, walking around? Are you seated or fully reclined on a surface? Are there any living beings or creatures, whether human or animal, with you in this safe, comforting, relaxing place? Or are you spending time by yourself here? Take the next minute to fully immerse yourself even more in this space. Perhaps noticing, is there anything you want to add to this place? It is yours. You have full control. Anything that would help this space be more comfortable, more relaxing. Wherever you are in your space, I invite you to take a moment and take a deep breath in. Imagine you're breathing in the surroundings, the energy of the space. And as you exhale, sigh it out, feeling yourself settle in just a little more. And bring your hands to a place on your body that you feel needs a little more relaxation, comfort, safety, or TLC. Maybe it's your heart center. Maybe it's over your head. Maybe it feels good to wrap your arms around you, giving yourself a hug. Or maybe there's a place where you've been feeling physical pain. And here in this place of safety, comfort, and relaxation, let's spend some additional time giving that to ourselves. If you want, you can imagine a healing white or golden light flowing from your hands to this area on your body. Perhaps an affirmation comes to mind or comforting words that feel good for you come to mind, repeating it to yourself as we spend the next few minutes doing just a little bit of energy work on ourselves. Now set the timer for 3 minutes. As you're in this position, continuing to breathe. You can imagine that as you breathe in, you receive that beautiful healing energy, and as you breathe out, it flows to the area that you're most in need of at this time. Continuing to breathe in, breathe out. Breathing in, breathing out. On your next inhalation, gently release your hands, resting them comfortably by your side. And just notice how your body is feeling in this moment. Checking in with ourselves. Notice and ask how your mind is feeling in this moment. And noticing how our spirit is feeling in this moment. Inquiring without judgment, just acknowledging where our full self is right here, right now. I invite you to take a look around your comforting, relaxing, safe space. Taking it all in once again and saying goodbye to it for now. Knowing that you can always come back to this space whenever you need to. Whenever you need to feel calmer, to feel comforted, to feel relaxed, to feel more at one with yourself. And over the next 5 rounds of breath, taking deep breaths, I invite you to once again find yourself in the space you are in physically. Before opening your eyes fully, if they've been closed, once again begin to add some movement into your body. This can be gentle movements in your fingers, in your toes, in your wrists or ankles. This can be larger stretches as feel comfortable for you. Anything that helps to reawaken your body. Anything that helps to bring a little more energy and movement into your body. And once again, I invite you to take a moment of pause, just noticing how you're feeling in this moment. Noticing what it feels like to have spent a little over 20-25 minutes just breathing, becoming more aware of your body. Perhaps feeling more present. And when it feels good for you, you can open your eyes fully, turn back on your camera if you'd like. Thank you all so much for letting me guide you today. Hopefully this has been a little bit of peace and calm on your Friday afternoon.
Thank you, Catherine, so much. So wonderful to have this delightful practice. I hope everybody enjoyed it. If anybody wants to make a little comment, we have a couple of minutes, so please do. Maybe you have questions for Catherine. Janet, what do we have next week?
Let me see. We will have Dr. Lara Williams, who is the champion for the Women's Well-being Initiative with the GW Resiliency and Well-being Center. She is amazing. She is, of course, an integrative medicine person. And she will be giving us a wellness talk next week. And let me see. if we have somebody signed up to be the mind-body practice.
While you're looking for that, I want to give a little update. Last Friday after the meeting, we got together with two of the laughter yoga teachers who we had over the last couple of months. And the decision is that we're going to try to do a laughter experience once a month, right? Or did we say once every 2 months? I forgot.
Once a month.
Once a month. So, we'll of course announce when it's going to happen. And if it's we'll continue in that format. And if everybody wants more, then we'll start planning, organizing separate class at some other times. We haven't quite decided yet. So we'll see what everybody thinks. If the class just naturally emerges from this, great. So just want to make sure that you do been updated on this, and then we since you asked, then we're gonna do that. So good.
So feel free to weigh in on what you think about doing laughter yoga once a month, probably the last Friday of the month. How does that sound? If you want to have any input, please put in the chat or unmute yourself now. But we really thought that you all had a really good response to laughter yoga a few weeks ago, as did Misha and myself. Okay, good.
All righty. Well, thank you everybody for participating, for joining. Special thanks to Patrick and Catherine for organizing today. We'll see you all next week. Enjoy the beautiful weather.
Bye.